Welcome to the Profit with Purpose show. I'm your host, Anna Goldstein, NYU certified coach, entrepreneur, and author. This is an informative and uplifting podcast where I dive deep into lives of entrepreneurs and change makers who are making money through living their life's purpose. The Profit with Purpose podcast is produced every week on Thursdays. Please subscribe to be the first to get updates about new episodes. All links and show notes are found at annagoldstein.com/podcast. Now let's get started. Listen up with an open heart and mind. Welcome to episode 80, How to Transform Emotional Pain. In this episode, I'll be sharing some tips and tools. And if you're interested in a free coaching strategy session, please go to annagoldstein.com/coach. That's annagoldstein.com/coach. I'm sure that we can agree that everyone you know, including yourself, has felt a negative emotion before. Now, negative emotions are not bad, in fact, and they aren't good. They just are. And sometimes they can be a doorway to positive transformation. You might have heard the saying, your triggers are your teachers. Well, that's what I want to talk about today on this episode. The other day I got triggered, and it inspired me to talk with you listeners out there because I know that I'm not alone in this, and it's something that happens to all of us. In fact, every one of us, we all get triggered sometimes. And that's really an opportunity to get to know ourselves even more. And when we know ourselves, it actually gives us more choice, more freedom, more authentic power. First, let me define what being triggered means. So basically, what being triggered means is that you're in some negatively charged emotional state. What that means is if you're feeling angry or defensive, sad, depressed, anxious, jealous, any type of negative emotion is surfacing. So first, you just want to be aware of your feelings. First, we just want to understand what happens in our body. So maybe our body starts to tighten or tense or even just contract. Or even sometimes when we're depressed, our body can go like we put our chin down and our shoulders down and we can cave in a little bit. So first, we just want to be aware of our physiology. And I like to acknowledge it first. And I use the language, I'm feeling triggered. And what that does is it creates just a little bit of space. And in that space is where we can explore. And that's something I'm going to talk more about in a minute. So the other day when I got triggered, I was talking to someone, and maybe you've been in this situation before where you're talking to someone and somebody says something and then all of a sudden you start feeling negative. And it really feels like it's coming from what that person is saying. And in this specific case, somebody was giving me some feedback. And while I thought I was open to it, I noticed that as this person was talking, I started to feel defensive. I started to explain myself, and I could feel the energy rising within my body that wanted to defend myself. And it was kind of just the beginning phase of anger, it felt like. And after I finished this conversation with this person, I just noticed that I was like, wow, I'm feeling really, really triggered. So that's really the first step, is to just notice. And I started to get curious and explore what about this conversation made me feel this way, because there was a lot that was said and nothing was really quote unquote mean in the conversation. And even if it was mean, if we are feeling really good about ourselves, maybe you've even had this experience that if you're feeling really good about yourself and then somebody says something mean, it doesn't really land that, or if it's an area of subject that you're confident in and somebody says something mean about you, it doesn't really matter. I recently had somebody on Facebook engage with me and she called me competitive, but I really don't identify with myself as competitive. So it didn't really faze me. But if somebody says something to you and you feel negatively charged, there's typically some pain there. And so it appears as though it's coming from the outside, but it's actually coming from within. And so that's where you want to start to get curious about. Now, I just want to be clear on this. Like if somebody's really mean to you and you need to set a boundary, that's something different. And that's not something that I'm talking about today in this episode. But what I am talking about is I'm talking about how to really get honest with ourselves about what areas in our life need to be looked at. And so when we're feeling like somebody said something or did something to us and we feel a negative charge, we want to uncover what's the pain. And once you realize that there's pain, then you can start to investigate what the story is. And some of the story that I started to tell myself was kind of deep in this belief that something's wrong with me and I'm basically doomed and I'll never succeed in this area of my life. And I began to realize that I was identifying with myself as a limited person. And I explored these thoughts and ideas and beliefs I had about myself with a sense of curiosity. Like, what about this made me so upset? What did I start telling myself? And once I extracted the story I was telling myself about myself, the trigger, the pain, the negative charge, it dissipated. So it wasn't like I had to place this positive affirmation on top of my feelings and tell myself how great I am, or push my negative feelings aside and ignore them and have a glass of wine or eat some food. It wasn't like I had to just sit there and wait for the negative emotion to dissolve. I actually just extracted the lesson. And then what I discovered is when you extract the lesson, the feeling just goes away because you gain an insight. Insights give us energy. And that's what it means that our triggers become our t-shirt. So here's my action item for you. The next time you get triggered and you notice that you have some negative emotion that's arising within your body and you can feel it within your own energy, to just start to investigate. And the answers might not come right away. Sometimes the negative feeling can be really intense, but just start to investigate, to get curious and ask yourself questions about what about this triggered me? What do I start telling myself about me? What's the story I'm telling myself about my life and what I'm capable of? Is there some fear there about loss, being less or never? Because pain is part of the human experience. It's not to avoid it, but to go into it with a sense of open curiosity. And if we do that, when pain arises, we can use it for positive self-transformation. Pain is a guidepost for introspection. It's ultimately an opportunity to awaken and learn. Thanks for listening, and many blessings on your journey. And that's the show. If you like this podcast, please write a review and share it with your friends. Questions, email me at info@annagoldstein.com. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon.